Today, I'm going to talk to you about how to sell more wine and spirits than you ever dreamed possible. You're not going to want to miss this. Stay tuned. Now, the first thing you need to do to sell more wine and spirits or anything else than you ever thought possible is you must accept this truth. The more you behave like a salesperson with something to sell, the less you're going to sell. That's the cold, hard truth. Nobody likes salespeople. Like if you ask about professions that, most people would never want to go into, used car salesperson comes to the top of the list. I got nothing against used car salesmen, except how most of them behave. You can always tell a salesperson because they're doing all the talking. They're talking about themselves. They're talking about their products. You know what I'm talking about. That's the kind of behavior that turns everybody off. Don't be the kind of salesperson who acts like a salesperson. This is why most salespeople don't get a reply to their emails, why they don't get a returned phone call, why they can't get an appointment. Why? Because the buyer sees them coming a mile away. Good Lord, another salesperson, another boring pitch that I have to sit through. You can avoid that whole trap by committing to not acting like a salesperson. Another dimension of this is, what do salespeople usually ask for? I want an appointment. I want to talk to you. Can you sit down and meet with me? This is too big of an ask in 2026. People are just too busy. Part of acting like a salesperson, or not acting like a salesperson, is to not ask so much from a buyer that you have no rapport or trust with. Lower the bar. What you want is a micro conversion. You just want a reply. You just want a dialogue to be opened. That's something you can work with, but that will never, ever, ever happen if you're running around acting like a salesperson with something to sell. Here's another aspect of this, acting like a salesperson with something to sell, which is you're doing most of the talking. And when you talk, it's all about your products or your company or even yourself. That is acting like a salesperson. Nobody likes it. I'm going to get into more of this in a few minutes. For now, I just want you to know that the more you act like a salesperson, the less you're going to sell. Now, here's the second thing that you need to do if you want to sell more wine and spirits than you ever thought possible. You must accept the following truth. The sale should be merely a byproduct of a much larger relationship. Selling, after all, is a relationship business. Always has been, always will be. Even in the age of AI, it's about relationships. It's a mindset. It's a discipline. It's a special way of approaching the relationship with the buyer. If you understand that the sale, it should be incidental to the relationship that you're building. And so how do you build this relationship? You build it on service and dependability and trust. It's a mindset. If you build your rapport and trust with a buyer based on service and dependability, the sale is a foregone conclusion. It's just a dotting of the I, a crossing of the T's. It's a byproduct of this larger relationship. So you want to sell a lot of wine, spirits, RTD, CBD, functional beverages, I don't care what it is you're selling, you must build the relationship. The sale will be a byproduct of that. You got to focus on service, dependability, trust, build rapport first, and the sale will follow naturally because at the end of the day, selling is a relationship game. Okay, the third key, the third principle that's going to allow you to sell more wine and spirits than you ever thought possible is this. The sale happens in the customer's world, not yours. Now, this is a hard truth for a lot of salespeople to accept because they haven't been trained properly. They've been trained to get the appointment, make a presentation, overcome objections, and closing skills. Whenever you're behaving in that way, you're not in the customer's world, you're in your own world, and that's not where the sale happens. So if you want to sell an awful lot of product, if you want to crush every sales goal they give you, no matter how aggressive, you've got to get out of your world and into the customer's world. So let's talk about what this looks like. You want to get into their heads. You want to make it seem like you've been reading their mail, reading their mind, that you know them so well, you understand what motivates them, what their decision process is like, who influences them, or what influences them. How do they approach their product assortment? How does their boss look look at them? How does their boss judge their success? What criteria are they being graded on inside their own company? Those are all aspects of what it looks like to be in the customer's world, not yours. Now, I have a great book I want to recommend. There's no affiliate link for this. I just love this book. It's a book by Carole and Mahoney called Buyer First. If you're struggling with this idea of how to get out of your world and get into the customer's world, this book is going to go a long way to show you exactly what that looks like. But this is a hard truth, I know, and it's hard to accept. And for a lot of people, they've been selling a long time the same way, and nobody's ever explained this. For you, it's going to be hardest to change. But the minute you make that switch, get out of your world and into the customer's world and stay in their world, your success, your chances of success, your probability of success goes through the roof. Trust me on this. The fourth way that you're going to sell more wine and spirits than you ever thought possible is another difficult truth to accept. In fact, it might be the hardest truth of the things I'm laying on you today. And here it is. It's not about your products. I'm going to say it again. It's not about your products. Having success in selling isn't about the product. Now, I know that's going to be foreign to a lot of you, but it's the truth. You know, having a great product at a great price in a great package produced by a masterful winemaker or distiller, those just get you to the starting line. Those are table stakes. Those aren't differentiators. It's really not about the product at all, but let me tell you what it is about. It's about bringing real value to the business relationship. I'll give you an example, and I have a great video on this. It's called 3 Things Every Restaurant Buyer Wants and How to Give It to Them. That video is going to make you a lot of money, but here's the idea behind it. There's 3 things that every restaurant wants everywhere. They want to grow their revenue, they want to control their costs, and they want to improve guest satisfaction. How is your product going to help them achieve one of those 3 objectives or more? These buyers, they have no trouble finding a great Chardonnay for $7. They have no trouble finding a smooth and tasty vodka for X insert price. That isn't their problem. They don't struggle with finding good products to put on their bar menu, their cocktail menu, their by the glass, their banquet list. They don't struggle with that. They struggle with things like running out of stock, getting jerked around on the pricing, not having somebody to call when there's a problem. Ironically, especially in the restaurant world where they're so focused on service, you can't have a good restaurant without having great service, right? Of course, you have to have great food, but service is one of the biggest things that influences where somebody's going to dine. Because that's their mindset. They expect that level of service from their vendors, from the people who sell to them. Instead of focusing on the product, I want you to focus on what that customer wants and how you can give it to them. Make all of your time together, your interaction together about what they want. Because it's really not about the product. I know that's a hard truth to accept, but as soon as you accept it and you start practicing behaving this way, you're going to sell so much more product. I promise you. Now, the 5th thing that you're going to need to do if you want to sell more wine and spirits than you ever thought possible is you've got to understand the role of price. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. That's the headline here. Price is only an issue in the absence of value, which means focus on the value that has nothing to do with price, and price will no longer be a barrier. Now, there's lots of people out there who would try to convince you that you need a better price, that the better your pricing, the more aggressive your pricing, the better your chances of making a sale. I have news for you. That's just not true. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. Now, if you're providing no other value, like dependability, service, trust, service after the sale, training for the staff, activation, support, if you're not providing any of that, then I guess all you're left with is lowering the price. I have a great video. Lowering the price to make a sale is for cowards. That's a great video, and it will really help you kind of get out of this mindset. But for today, I want to help you understand that price should not be used as a lever to make a sale. All that does is put you in a very crowded camp where somebody is trying to race to the bottom by lowering their price. There's always someone who will offer a better price. You don't need a lower price. If your product is priced fairly to begin with, and it represents good value for the money, then you don't need to lower the price. You don't need to pull on the lower the price lever. Now, one of the entities that tries to push brand owners and supplier salespeople to lower the price are distributors. They are facing intense pressure pressure, even inside their own portfolio, to sell as much as they can. And for them, they can get the supplier to lower the price. It makes their job easier, but you don't have to go there. Lowering the price is not a wise strategy. I'll give you a practical example. You get a call from a distributor rep and it says, "Hey, Mary, I've got a customer who's looking for a new Chardonnay by the glass. If you can get your Chardonnay down to $5.50 a bottle, I can hook you up with hundreds of cases a month in sales." Here's the problem. Mary thinks to herself, well, we don't make a $5 Chardonnay. We make an $8 Chardonnay. You're asking me to lower my $8 Chardonnay to $5 and you're going to get me this nice placement? No, we don't make a $5 Chardonnay. When you have a customer who wants an $8 Chardonnay backed by strong customer service, dependability, and trust, then you give me a call. You see the difference there? You shouldn't be lowering your price, which means you're lowering your profit just to make a sale. And sales made that way are very fleeting. They don't last. So I know this is a hard truth to accept, but you must accept it. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. Now, just to wrap things up here, I know that these 5 truths are a little bit hard to accept. And the longer you've been selling wine and spirits, the harder they are to accept because they're so new and they're so foreign. But in the age that we're in today, where distributors are overwhelmed and there's tens of thousands of competing products on the market, talking about product selling in the old way is just not going to cut it. You need a new approach. This is the modern approach. And there's so many great resources for this. A lot of them are my videos, articles, etc. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll have access to all these videos and more. I want you to start thinking in the modern way. You've got to let go of the old way of selling. Don't think about selling as persuading people or convincing people about the merits of your product. The features and benefits way of selling went out of fashion in the 1950s. This is 2026, people. You've got to get your head on straight. You got to understand how to sell in the modern world. If you liked this video, click like, share it with somebody that needs to get this information, maybe your boss, and please subscribe because we put out new videos like this all the time. Thanks for watching.